Are you wondering about the market? I'm going to give you a market update for Santa Cruz and talk a little bit about the real estate market. Of course, I'm using October's data. It just came in and we're kind of always a bit back. But 30-year interest rates are down. Prices are even down. So why is there foreclosure talk coming back again? Yes, I'm going to give you my foreclosure rant once again, but let's talk a little bit about 30-year interest rates. You know, they've been talking about 50-year mortgages. I don't even know if I want to weigh in on an opinion on that. I think it's absolutely insane. That would just basically lock you into your house. I mean, well, you could sell it, of course, right? But it stretches out the equity that you make. And real estate is really the number one place that people can advance their wealth. And a 50-year mortgage is just, I think it's horrible. But anyway, I already said I wasn't going to give my opinion. I'm giving my opinion. No, I think if people can get into 15 and 20-year mortgages, that would be best. But you're going to say to me, but Michelle, the prices in Santa Cruz are insane. How are people going to do that? Yeah, I agree with you. They're insane. I don't know. House prices on average have sold 4% less than 2024. You have interest rates going down. You have prices, they're down. So basically, the data is saying that the home sales price is less than what people were getting a year ago. I would tell you there were less sales last year, though. So if you couldn't sell your house last year, who cares if you could get more for it? You get more for it, you sat on it, you didn't sell it, you didn't make that money. So overall, 3-month median, the prices have declined, but that's normal for fall. We do see prices go down, and it's cloudy out today. We're expecting rain tomorrow and Thursday, and that always puts a damper on the market. Buyers don't want to go out in the rain, and real estate agents probably don't either, because we all know they're made of sugar normally. So if you've listened to my videos this summer, you would know I told you there were record price reductions. They were humongous, and the data is showing the outcome of that. Now, why? We had a record number of listings. We had an absolute tsunami of listings come on in May, June, and July. July had this huge peak of listings. Everybody decided they wanted to sell at once. It's so odd to me. I can never figure out, like, is there some little bell that goes off somewhere and it's like, oh, sell your house, or go to the grocery store, or, you know, what causes all the traffic? And then you go a different time of day and there's no traffic. Boy, I'm really getting off topic, aren't I? Okay, so there were a lot of listings. There were a lot of price reductions. Where are we at now? We are at, if a house is priced right for the current market, it sells quickly. And I'll give you an example of a condo in my neighborhood. We sat on the market, May, June, July, August activity picked up, and then September we went into another price reduction. Market picked up a lot, and then October it actually sold. Then another one right around the corner about 3 weeks ago went on and sold in 9 days. Well, what happened was the price, the true median price for that complex had been attained, and that was $640. And so, you know, good agents, good and sellers who want to sell see that, and they go, okay, that's where the price is, that's where I'm going to go. If I want to make more for my house, I'm going to have to stay on the market longer. If I want to sell now, where it seems like we are at in the market, that's the price that I need to go on for. So if you see what I'm saying, we had a glut of listings in the summer. Everybody was trying to figure out where the market was, and really we kind of sifted down where we had less listings, same amount of buyers, stuff was selling, and then we were able to target that price that was going to get a buyer and sell. When you have a lot of listings and you don't have a lot of buyers, higher interest rates, it's really hard to figure out which way to turn the ship. But when you have good buyer activity, decent mortgage rates, and a fair amount of listings, but not a lot. You don't want to be the only listing around. I call it the last loaf of bread on the shelf. Buyers aren't always excited when they feel like that's the only one that they can buy. They often wait. So here we are, less listings, same amount of buyers, better mortgage rate environment, and it was easy to target the price, and that condo is in escrow. So if that gives you an idea of how the market works, and a lot of listings makes it really hard to target in what a good price is for your listing. So I'm seeing listings probably, I don't know, I would say maybe 9 to 7 days, a 17-day average is selling if they're priced right. If they're not, they sit. I've seen a lot of the ones that just kind of hung in the market and they're staying in there 45, 96 days. Time or money. They wanted to get a certain price, so they're kind of hanging on, and I respect that. There's however you want to do it, but it is easier when there's less listings. So we're probably going to see an uptick in sales a bit as the fall trails off, because those other listings have either sold or been taken off the market. And it's a little bit more narrow, and it's a little easier to figure out where a property is going to sell. And if you want to sell it quickly, you know exactly where to go. You can just go from that last comp, just go a little under. It's how I sell. I sell stuff on Craigslist. It's kind of a hobby. And what I do, I go on Craigslist, and you know what my comp is? I go find that item that's similar to mine, like say a camera. I just sold a little handheld camera, and I just went on and looked, and I found that they were selling from $90 to $120. And I went, I want this to go. I don't really want to haggle with people. I don't want to. So I priced it for $40, and I sold it in a couple days. Now, you may not want to sell your house for cheap. I mean, you're thinking, no, I don't want to do that. Fine. But that's just an instance of how I kind of figured things out. When you are looking for a house like yours, buyer and or seller, if you're trying to figure out where that price should be, make sure you're getting really kind in location and quality of house, not just that one looks like mine or my house is better. But the one big explosion in this market is condos. And I just gave you a condo example where a condo complex kind of recovered from a glut of listings and a huge problem that the HOA ran into. Now, HOAs are always the villain, Q devil here. People always love to hate HOAs. It's like lawyers and real estate agents. This HOA, I feel, really did their best. They had kind of looked at what they were going to need to do some work, and they planned out for it. They even budgeted for it. But what they didn't expect to come along was the insurance company said, we are taking away the policy that you have, the one that the lenders like, and we're going to give you this one until the roof repair or roof renovations are done, re-roofs. And the lenders don't like that one. It's basically just a bare bones policy, and the lenders don't like being exposed. If the property burns down, they're going to lose their investment. So they kind of got hit with a double whammy. But I would tell you, condos this year have been hit with a triple threat. Either they were underfunded for maintenance work that they needed to do that also comes up in lending scenarios. Lenders typically just don't like condos anyway. Then when you find out those repairs aren't done, then the insurance company doesn't want to insure it. So now the lender doesn't want to lend on it because they don't like the insurance policy. And then the insurer doesn't want to insure it because they don't like the maintenance. And then there's SB 326. That is I have to look at it, California Balcony Safety Law. That's where balconies are supposed to be safe because they get rotted and they rot. And there was a terrible accident where people fell off a balcony. And so they had to go back and get their balconies inspected and or redone. And it was just a triple threat. I know HOAs can be evil and be draconian, but I will tell you that this was a storm that they just couldn't see coming. I mean, they can plan and plan and plan, but laws come in and things change, and it's just hard. So how do you maybe buy a condo? A lot of times they're the affordable homes in the market. My advice to you right now for condos is to buy in big complexes. Buy where they have a lot of units to spread out the cost. So typically in a very large complex, 150 to 200 units, they would maybe raise the HOA dues fees by maybe $20. And you're like, yeah, $20 a month, I can do that. Well, think of all of the units paying that over a couple of years can usually pay for big projects. Therefore, you can miss out or avoid those huge special assessments. When people are really afraid of special assessments, where you need to be afraid is in the smaller complexes where they have to spread out big costs among just a few people. Seems really basic, I'm sure, but when you're looking at maybe condos should be seen as short-term housing, maybe a 4 to 10 year plan where, and then maybe you'll turn it into a rental. I still think that if you can get into a complex where there's more units, but also check how they're taking care of the roof, the painting, and the siding. Siding, I've talked about in other videos, can be huge in cost. And the other thing I will tell you about HOAs that get stuck is that the construction trades, they have their expenses going up. They're passing on those. So if they assessed a certain amount to pay for repairs over a certain amount of time, and they're like, okay, great, we're getting, 100,000, and in 3 years we're going to have 300,000, and we're going to do all this work. And then they get to the end of the 3 years, and the trades or the materials have gone up, and now it's 326,000, then they're short. Then they borrow it from over here, and then they look like they're poorly managed or they haven't assessed right. So, have a little patience with it. But if you want to buy a condo, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying look at the repairs they're doing, how much money they have saved, what does their insurance policy look like, and just know that they can prepare, but things change. Also, your lender can look at those HOA documents and help you if you have some questions. So you can kind of pass them on to a trusted lender, not one that's going to be like, oh my God, you can't buy in here. You want to send it to the lender that wants to support you buying it. Now, we're talking about condos. We should talk about insurance. So I talked about those 3 things that HOAs are getting hit with, and you might think insurance is horrible. It is, but we aren't the most expensive. Nebraska is. We are actually in the middle in terms of insurance costs. So while it's going up, people have it harder than us, but they probably have lower cost of housing. So Now my foreclosure rant. I bet you've been waiting for this. So look, all the pundits out there, it's good clickbait to say foreclosure waves are coming. There are still a large 38 to 44% mortgage less people that people own their home outright. We still have a very huge chunk. We also have a very large chunk of people who got really great loans during COVID and got 15-year loans with great rates. So if you're going to sit around and wait for a property that you want, you're just like, oh, I know that I can go to Santa Cruz and there's this house I like, and I'm just going to wait. I've been watching online. They missed a payment or anything like that. It's not going to happen. It's not. If it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen somewhere else, but it's definitely not going to happen here, because I am just working with an investor right now, and he's just going around trying to find fixer-uppers. That the foreclosure market for him, buying them on the courthouse steps, has pretty much dried up. And if something comes along, there's big investment groups that grab it. So in Santa Cruz County, I would say you can hope and wish, but this is not the spot. Now, if there's another area and another, there are large swaths of area. I think in Arizona, there are some big corporations that have bought that are starting to default on some of their stuff, and that can lead to huge numbers and might give you an idea, but it's a national number. It's not here. I also subscribe to a letter that has a few foreclosures that come up in there. There's only like a couple, and I can tell you a lot of those get cured unless it's some house hanging off the cliff somewhere in the San Lorenzo Valley. If you're thinking you're going to wait for a foreclosure and you're going to get a good deal, you probably are going to be waiting for a long time. It's just not happening here. But what I can tell you is it looks like prices are going down a bit and affordability is getting down. Now, my hope for you is that all your other job, investments, and everything else stays safe enough for you to feel secure and good in buying and even selling. Did you like this content? I'm glad you listened to it, and I hope you like it. Maybe share it. If maybe there's a snippet in there you want somebody to see, pass it over to them. Hit that little like button there, and or comment and tell me I'm full of it. I get a few of those. And of course, hit me up if you have any questions. And down below will be amazing Santa Cruz County Market report that I will put in there from Compass. It is so good. It has a little information on who is moving here, from where, and who is and where they're moving out to in other areas in the country. I thought it was really interesting. You might like it too. Okay, hope to see you soon. Bye.